was on Twitter and I saw like someone's post that was like from a Reddit rant or whatever. And it's basically all these people who are actually in industries where they feel like their job is tremendously changed and they're now concerned. And one of the ones that was very interesting to me was actually a 3D modeler for video games. And so this person used to go through the process, determining what they wanted to build, why they wanted to build it, and then would actually spend weeks creating the 3D model that would then be broken down to a 2D version for the actual video game. Actually using Midjourney. And the guy was basically saying, well, my manager doesn't care as much as I do about this work. And so all they want me to do is to create these prompts and then put it into Midjourney, spit this out, and then convert it into something we can use in video games. There's two of us. I think that one of us get fired because, the other person, even though he's not as talented as I am, and in fact, before this, I was always rated higher than him, he's much quicker at putting in the prompts. And so I can't imagine that video game is going to be that great, right? Part of the thing that's so delightful about video games is it's just so fundamentally like random what you would see in the next video game. And that happened because a human made the decision of, getting high one weekend. I don't know. It was just like, oh, I saw mushrooms, they could float. And that's why I decided to do mushrooms. And so that piece of content is out there. And sure, Midjourney is like, taking that and learning from it. But the thing is, Midjourney can't get that type of high, right? So they gonna still have to wait for that person to come to have that like dynamic, crazy thing. And the prompt is gonna come up with something that is relatively similar, probably to something that already exists. You can't replace that level of creativity. So all this to say, will some people lose jobs? Absolutely, right? Right, because that's how it always works. In 2008, when the economic downturn happened and lots of people got laid off, and then companies figured out that they actually could have people work way more and pay them way less and still have them operate effectively, essentially, then of course they didn't hire people back. There was so many less really great paying jobs after 2008. And then it took until, technology took off for great salary to go up again. And right now we're doing the same exact thing again, right? All these people are getting laid off and they're going to try to use all of this technology as effectively as possible so they don't have to hire people back. But that's not to say that these people have been replaced. Instead, what I'm saying is that there's going to be companies that are going to make economic choices that are going to lead to somewhat more mediocre products because it's not, people who are very thoughtful and delightful who are thinking about the end user aren't going to be there. And it's going to be interesting.
Just as much as these AI tools replace jobs, there are going to be new jobs created in order to be able to use those tools. Like there's a whole new role generated of like prompt generator for these AI tools as well. So as much as we lose, we gain, and we need to keep that in mind. That just says to us as humans that, get your skill level up, don't get replaced, don't get complacent. Understand that the world is always going to evolve, and they evolve with it, or you get left behind, right? There's always going to be the early adopters who understand that, this is a powerhouse tool and I'm going to leverage it. And they're going to hit that boom era. They're going to make all that money off of it, just like with the internet, just like with the computers, just like all those things previously. History always repeats itself. And then there's going to be the latecomers who don't get to benefit as much. They understand how to use the tool a little bit better. So we just got to decide, where do we want to be on that spectrum? The early adopter or the latecomer?
Well, I'm going to play a little bit of hypothetical in a second, but I also think that in the short term, to piggyback with something B said, is that what I believe is going to happen, you're talking about that example of this prompt engineer with this mid journey, is you're going to see that the expected level of output is going to increase because the hypothesis from leaders is going to be, well, now that you have this tool, you should be able to do this much. And so to that point, there's going to be a lot of mediocre products coming out because there's going to be this delusion into thinking we can create at X speed now. To some extent, you're right, but there is some value to good ideas being incubated versus just any idea. So you're probably having a lot of mediocre stuff come out on the market and a lot of expectations for workers to output even more.